Hello, our lesson today is lesson 1-8, problem solving, making an organized list. This was a tough lesson for students and we did this one entirely as a class today. You already know how to organize information in charts and tables. Today you will make an organized list to solve problems. What numbers fit the following clues? It is a two-digit number. It's an odd number. The digit in the tens place is greater than 3. The digits in the ones place is less than 5. Make an organized list of all the possible numbers. Okay, so when I look at a question like this, it's a tough, complicated question, I like to think about it sentence by sentence and ask myself, what does each sentence tell me about how to make my list and how to solve the problem? Here I've highlighted the first sentence. It is a two-digit number. What does that tell me about how to set up my list? It lets me know that I need to have two columns in my list, one for tens place, one for the ones place. Next, I've highlighted the sentence that says it is an odd number. What does it mean for something to be an odd number? It means it needs to end with 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. Here I've added the numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 to the top of my ones place column. The next sentence says the digit in the tens place is greater than 3. What digits are greater than 3? The digits 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are greater than 3. So I added those to the top of my tens place column. Lastly, the clue says the digit in the ones place is less than 5. So I need to cross out some of those digits I wrote in the ones place. I'll cross out all the digits that are not less than 5. Here I've crossed out the digits that are less than 5 and I've made my list of all the possible numbers that fit these clues. I made this list an organized list by starting with numbers that are smaller in the tens place, 4, and starting with numbers that are smaller in the ones place, 1. I had another one I could do with the tens place 4, using a 3 for the ones place. Then, to keep it organized, I got one digit bigger and went to 5 in my tens place. Still only have the options of 1 and 3 in my ones place. So that gives me 51 and 53 as my numbers. Getting bigger still, I get 6 and 1, 6 and 3, 7 and 1, 7 and 3, 8 and 1, 8 and 3, 9 and 1, 9 and 3. And throughout this whole lesson, the students and I talked about patterns that we saw in those numbers. And I bet you can see a pattern where each number is repeated twice in the tens. And you can see the pattern in the ones. It goes 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, back and forth. Noticing those patterns is helpful to students and it helps keep things organized. How do we know that all the possible numbers are listed? We know all the possible numbers are listed because we've listed them in an organized way so that we're not forgetting or leaving out any numbers or doing any numbers twice. Then we got out our whiteboards and we did some as a class. Here's the first problem we did as a class today. John, Anna, and Beth are standing in line. List all the different ways they can line up. We started by saying, let's make it easier for ourselves and not write those whole names over and over. We're just going to write their initials to keep it short and simple for ourselves. Then we made a chart. At the top of the chart we said first, middle, and last to let us know which order they were lined up in. To keep it organized, we started by making John first. He's the first in the list in the question, so for me it makes sense to have him first in line to start. J, A, B is one way they could line up. Another way they could line up, keeping John first, would be J, B, A. What would make sense to go here next? We could put A, Anna, first in line, and then she would be followed by J, John, and then B, Beth. Keeping Anna first in line, we could make Beth middle and John last. Then there's two more we could add in, 2 more rows to add in. What would go here next? How about Beth, John, Anna, and Beth, Anna, John. Keeping it organized, we see some patterns, and keeping it organized, we also know that we've used all the combinations we can and we haven't repeated ourselves or left out any. Another problem we did today as a class, Frank has 35 cents in coins. None of his coins are pennies. What combinations can he have? Make an organized list. Look first at that sentence that says Frank has 35 cents in coins. How does that help us make our chart, our table? We can put at the top total of 35 cents so we don't forget how much we're supposed to add up to. Then look at the next sentence. None of his coins are pennies. What does that tell us? It tells us that his coins are quarters, dimes, and nickels. I've divided the chart into 3 columns and I've added Q, D, N to stand for quarters, dimes, and nickels. So then we ask ourselves, what combinations can he have? Let's start at the beginning of that list with quarters. He could have 1 quarter, 1 dime, and 0 nickels. A quarter is 25 cents, a dime is 10 cents, so 25 plus 10 is 35. We could also have 1 quarter, 0 dimes, and 2 nickels. That would add up to 35 cents. What if we had no quarters? What would we put in? What would be the thing to put in next for dimes? If we try to keep it organized, we want to start with the most dimes we can use first. We could use 3 dimes and 1 nickel to make 35 cents. What else could we use with just dimes and nickels? We could use 2 dimes and 5 nickels. We could use 1 dime and 5 nickels. Or we could use 0 dimes and 7 nickels. Those are all the possible combinations, and looking through, having kept it organized, we should see some patterns and we should be able to know that we've got all the combinations, haven't repeated any, haven't missed any. So we talked some more about patterns. Here's another problem. We set up our table like this, and here's the problem. Rachel has a quarter, a dime, a nickel, and a penny. She told her brother he could take 2 coins. List all the different pairs of coins he could take. Okay, so let's look first again at that top sentence. Rachel has a quarter, a dime, a nickel, and a penny. That's how I knew to make my chart with Q, D, and P at the top. I like to keep them in that order because they go from the coin that's worth the most to the coin that's worth the least. Then she told her brother he could take 2 coins. What information should we add to our chart based on that sentence? We could say choose 2 coins so that we're not going to let him take more or less than that. List all the different pairs he could take. Let's get started. Start with the one on the left, the one that's worth the most. He could take 1 quarter, 1 dime. He could also take a quarter and something else. And he could take a quarter and then a 3rd coin as well. So what are the 2 other choices he could take with quarters? He could take a quarter and a nickel or a quarter and a penny. What about if he had a dime? He could take a dime and a nickel. And is there another one he could take, a dime and something else? He could take a dime and a penny. Lastly, he could take a nickel and a penny. We've kept the list organized so we know we've got all the combinations. Here's the last problem we did today in math. We said list all the 5-digit numbers that fit these clues. 10,000's digit is 7. Thousands digit is less than 2. Hundreds digit is greater than 7. Tens digit and ones digit are both 5. So let's think about this. How should we set up our table or our chart to show that we're going to be talking about 5-digit numbers? Students got this part pretty quickly. We're going to set it up in 5 columns and label those columns 10,000s, thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones. Once we've done that, let's look at the clue there. It says 10,000's digit is 7. Well, that makes it a lot easier for ourselves. Let's put a 7 in there. And then the next clue says thousands digit is less than 2. So we asked ourselves what digits are less than 2. Well, 0 and 1 are both digits less than 2. Next clue said hundreds digit is greater than 7. So what digits are greater than 7? 8 and 9 are both greater than 7. The last clue says the tens and the ones digit are both 5, so then again we can put 5 in the tens and 5 in the ones, make it a little simpler. Then I had the students try on their own to make all the combinations they could. We started with the numbers that are first in each list, and we got 4 possible combinations. We talked a little bit about the patterns that we saw, and that was it for this time.